Jeff the Killer, the internet's most cursed photo. They said just saying that name out loud in a dark room with a screen in front of you was enough to make it notice you. They said the picture itself was like a doorway, white skin, black hair, a carved plastic smile, staring through the glass of your monitor, waiting for you to stare back too long. Most people laughed when they heard that. Most. This story is about one of the people who didn't laugh. Or at least, he stopped laughing when it was already far too late. Because he didn't know that what he'd found that night wasn't just an old creepypasta image, but something that had been waiting for years, inside millions of screens, inside millions of eyes, for someone like him to look a little too closely, for a little too long. He lived alone on the 5th floor of a tired grey apartment block at the edge of the city. His name was Liam, 19 years old, studying for now, as he liked to tell people, which really meant barely. What he did seriously was the internet, forums, old threads, dead links, archive sites with black backgrounds and white text, where people posted stories that were never meant to be found again. He liked the feeling that came with it, that quiet, electric sense that you were opening doors that had been nailed shut, reading things that had been written at 3 a.m. by people you would never meet. Things that maybe they regretted posting. Things that maybe they shouldn't have posted. It started on one of those nights. Rain hitting the window, the sort of constant, soft tapping that makes everything feel further away. His room was lit only by his monitor, a cheap LED strip glowing weakly behind it, making the walls look like the inside of some aquarium. The time in the corner of his screen read 2:41 a.m. He was deep into an old thread on an abandoned image board. Most of the pictures were long gone, replaced with broken icons and file not found messages. The usernames were anonymous, just numbers and letters, half of them banned, most of them silent since around 2013. The thread title was simple: Jeff the Killer, original file, not the edit. Liam had seen that title 100 times on different sites. Claims of the true image, the version before the Photoshop, before the creepypasta, before the myth. Every time, it was either a joke, a low-res copy, or a virus. But this thread was different. The posts were old, time-stamped from years ago. The first one was from a user named Orpheus. He'd written, "Got the original. It's not a joke. Don't stare at it for more than 13 seconds. The eyes don't like it when you count." Beneath that was a link. No preview, no thumbnail, just a string of numbers. Most of the replies were the usual stuff. LOL, nice try, cringe, post the jump scare already. But as Liam scrolled further down, the tone shifted. Usernames changed. To guessed, then deleted. Posts were cut short. There were long gaps in the timestamps, like people had started typing and never finished. One reply caught his eye. "I tried the 13 seconds. It blinked." Another one, "Why is there audio on a JPG?" And then, lower still, "Can mods remove the link? My brother saw it. He's in the hospital now. Keeps repeating that smile is inside his head. Says it won't let him sleep." Liam's lips curled into a half smile. He knew how this worked. Urban legend layering. Plant a story, leave it for a few years, let it grow moss, then someone like him stumbles on it and gets creeped out. It was smart, effective, but he didn't believe it. Not really. He hovered his cursor over the link. He didn't know that what he was about to open wasn't the same file the others had seen, that it had been changing slowly, tiny tweaks over thousands of downloads, learning what worked, learning how to hold attention just long enough. He clicked. The screen went black for a fraction of a second. It was subtle, like a blink. His browser froze, then the window expanded to full screen by itself. He watched as the image loaded from the top down. First the hair, black, stringy, like wet plastic. Then the pale forehead, stretched too smooth, like skin that had been pulled tight and stapled at the back. Then the eyes, those enormous dark-rimmed circles, too wide, too white, the pupils like two small pits in snow, and then the mouth, that impossible, carved grin, teeth too bright, lips sliced back toward the ears in a permanent, frozen command. Smile. He'd seen it before. Everyone had. It was just Jeff. Just another internet monster. Just another mask. But this one was different. The resolution was too sharp. The pores on the skin were visible in strange places. Some areas were blurred, like the camera had shifted slightly. The shadows under the eyes weren't perfectly smooth. They had depth, like something had been pressing against the face from behind. He leaned closer to the screen without realizing he was doing it. The white of the face filled his vision. His own reflection floated faintly over the image, his dark hair, the outline of his nose. For a second, the two faces overlapped, his mouth and that smile. He remembered the comment, "Don't stare at it for more than 13 seconds. He smirked, exhaled quietly, and started counting in his head. 1. The rain outside softened. The sound of his old desktop fan grew louder, a low, circular hum. 2. He could feel the dry warmth of the monitor on his face. The plastic at the edges creaked softly as it heated. 3. The pupils on the screen seemed to fix on him more directly. It was a trick, he told himself. The eyes follow you effect. Simple. Old. 4. The faintest distortion ran across the image, like static. He blinked. It stopped. 5. His own eyes began to sting. The white on the screen was so bright it felt like it was burning into his retinas. 6. He noticed something strange in the background of the photo, a dark patch beyond the shoulder of the figure, like a doorway or a corner of a room, swallowed in shadow. 7. The hum of the fan dipped for a second. The light strip behind his monitor flickered, then steadied again. 8. The smile seemed wider. Only a little. The kind of difference you're not sure you actually see. 9. The skin around the eyes had fine hairline cracks now, like dry porcelain. 10. His heart had started to beat faster, not from fear, he told himself, from the tension, from the stupid little game. 11. The room felt colder. 12. He felt a pressure, not on his skin, but behind his eyes, as if the image was pushing in through them. His phone buzzed on the desk, making him jump. The image minimized. The spell broke. He exhaled hard, realizing he'd been holding his breath. The buzzing stopped. No notification. No message on the screen. When he clicked back to the browser, the image had returned to normal size. The face was still there, still smiling, still waiting. He frowned. Something about the eyes bothered him. They looked off-center, like they were slightly misaligned, as if the face had been captured mid-movement. He glanced at the time. 2:53 a.m. Enough, he thought. He took a screenshot of the thread, copied the image file name, and closed the window. But the window didn't close. The X button in the corner flickered when he hovered over it, then slid away from his cursor like it was dodging him. Liam's frown deepened. His mouse hand tightened. "Okay, very funny," he muttered. He pressed Alt plus F4. The image stayed. He held down the power button on his PC tower. The fans spun down. The LED on the case went dark. The monitor stayed on. Jeff's face remained, floating in the otherwise black room, white and silent and smiling. He felt something cold bloom in his chest. His throat tightened, suddenly dry. He reached behind the monitor and pulled the power cable. The screen went black. The room fell into real darkness, the only sound the rain and his own breathing. His heart was hammering now, and he felt stupid for it, but the feeling wouldn't go away. He stood for a moment, frozen, listening. Nothing. He plugged the cable back in, waited for the monitor to click, then watched it blink back to life. No face, just no signal in small, drifting letters. He let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding, laughed weakly at himself, and turned on the small lamp on his desk. Its warm yellow light cut through the blue residue of the screen. "Just a glitch," he said quietly. "Just a stubborn window and a scared brain." He got ready for bed with the slow, heavy movements of someone who knew sleep was a long shot. Insomnia had been his shadow for years. Tonight, he told himself, would be no different. He would lie awake, and the hours would pass, and the sky would turn pale, and the world would move on. But that night, something was different. He dreamed. He stood in a corridor, long and narrow, walls painted that sickly off-white common in hospitals and old schools. The floor was linoleum, pale grey, shining slightly as if it had recently been cleaned. There were no doors, just a straight, endless hall fading into darkness ahead and behind. He walked. His footsteps made no sound. The air tasted like metal, like coins held too long in a closed hand. The lights overhead buzzed faintly, but they didn't flicker. The corridor was perfectly lit, every surface visible, every corner sharp. And yet, he couldn't see the end. As he moved, he noticed something on the walls, small framed rectangles evenly spaced. At first, he thought they were certificates or pictures, but as he approached the first one, he saw it clearly. A face, white, smiling. The frame was small, but the expression was enormous, pressed up against the glass, as if the person behind it had been shoved too close to the camera. He passed another frame, another face, the same one, then another, and another. He walked faster now, heart racing. Every few meters, another frame, another identical face, watching him. The smiles did not change. The eyes did not follow him. They stared straight ahead, as if waiting for him to cross an invisible line. He realized, slowly, sickly, that the corridor wasn't lined with photographs. It was lined with screens. He could see faint pixels when he got too close. The glow was subtle, but it was there. He turned, suddenly desperate to find a door, any door, a break in the walls. There was nothing, only more corridor, more screens, more smiles. He reached out, hand shaking, toward one of the faces. His fingers brushed the glass. The screen was warm, the lips twitched. The eyes rolled, just slightly, down to look directly into his, and then without moving, without changing shape, the smile spoke, not with sound, in his head. One sentence, echoing like it had been carved behind his eyeballs. Go to sleep. He woke with a violent jerk, sitting bolt upright in bed, his heart pounding so hard his chest hurt. His throat was raw, as if he'd been screaming silently in his sleep. The room was dark. The only light came from the small LED on his power strip, a dull red glow near the floor. He grabbed his phone, checked the time. 3:33 a.m., the exact center of the night. He swallowed, feeling the sweat cooling on his skin. His pillow was damp. His t-shirt clung to his back. It was just a dream, he told himself. Just the image leaking into his subconscious. Nothing more. He turned on the lamp. It didn't turn on. He pressed the switch again. Nothing. The red LED on the power strip was still glowing. He stood, legs slightly shaky, and crossed the room to his desk. The monitor was on. He hadn't turned it back on. He hadn't even turned the PC on. The monitor by itself glowed a sickly off-white. No desktop, no icons, just light. Slowly, as his eyes adjusted, he noticed shapes forming in the brightness. Not the full face, not yet, just fragments. The curve of a pale cheek, the edge of a too-wide mouth, the suggestion of a pupil. The image was loading again, line by line, pixel by pixel, as if someone was drawing it from memory. The back of his neck prickled. He reached out, hand trembling, and hit the power button on the monitor. Nothing happened. The screen kept brightening, the shapes sharpening, the smile slowly twisting into view. Go to sleep. The words slid across his mind again, this time like they were being whispered directly into the space behind his eyes. Liam slammed his fist into the power strip. The red LED went out. The entire room sank into black. Silence. He stood there, breathing hard, the darkness pressing close. Then, very slowly, the monitor lit up again. No power, no cable. Just that creeping, unnatural glow, white and smiling. He didn't scream. He couldn't. His voice had vanished somewhere between his chest and his throat. He backed toward the bed, grabbed his phone with numb fingers, and turned the flashlight on. The narrow beam cut through the dark, bouncing off the walls. He aimed it at the monitor. It was off. Completely. No glow. No face. Just a dead black rectangle. The phone's light flickered in his shaking hand. He stared at the blank screen for a long time, his own pale reflection staring back. Eyes wide, mouth slightly open. He didn't sleep again that night. He sat with the light on, back against the headboard, watching the monitor like it was a door that might open at any moment. Morning came slowly. The pale grey of the sky seeped in through the curtains, washing the room in a dull, lifeless light. By 8 a.m., the anxiety had faded enough for him to feel stupid again. He booted up the PC. It started normally, fans whirring, logo appearing on the screen, the desktop loaded. His wallpaper was still there. No sign of the image, no strange files. His browser opened to the last page he'd visited, the thread with the link. The link was gone. Where there had been a string of numbers, there was now just a single word in brackets. Removed. His screenshots folder, where he'd saved the capture of the thread, was empty. He stared at the screen, a hollow feeling opening in his stomach. He hadn't deleted anything. He checked his downloads. No file with that name. No trace of the image at all. His eyes drifted to the recent files section. There were 2 items, untitled JPG, untitled 1 JPG. He hovered over the first. No thumbnail. Size 0KB. The second, no thumbnail. Size 0KB. His hand shook slightly as he double-clicked untitled JPG. Nothing opened. No error. No loading icon. He double-clicked again. This time something happened, but not on the screen. In the corner of the room, behind him, near the window, something creaked. A soft, subtle sound, like someone shifting their weight on old floorboards. He turned slowly. Nothing was there, but for a moment, in the faint reflection on the window glass, he thought he saw a shape behind him. Too close, too white. He spun back to the monitor. There was an image on the screen now. Not Jeff. Not exactly. It was his room, his desk, his monitor, his chair, his own back, hunched slightly, as if caught by a webcam from somewhere above him. The timestamp at the bottom of the image read 3:33:07. He could see in that frozen frame the faint glow of the monitor in the photograph. On that monitor's surface, barely visible, washed out by the light, was the ghost of a face, white, smiling. He hadn't recorded anything. He didn't own a webcam. He unplugged the PC. This time everything actually went dark. No glow, no phantom boot. He left it that way. Days passed. The rational part of his mind did what rational minds do. It began to patch over the fear. It told him that sleep deprivation causes hallucinations, that his brain had filled in gaps, that the old stories in that thread had primed him to see patterns where there were none. He went to class. He saw friends. He scrolled on his phone, avoiding horror, avoiding forums, avoiding anything with a white face and black hair. But it kept leaking back in. A thumbnail here, a meme there, someone reposting the picture as a joke, someone using it as a profile picture in a group chat. Every time he saw it, even for a second, a bolt of cold shot through his chest. One evening, a week later, his friend Maya came over. She was one of the few people who knew about his late-night internet habits. She tolerated them, sometimes even joined him, laughing at weird threads. She noticed the tower on the floor, unplugged. "Your PC die?" she asked, dropping her bag on the bed. He hesitated. "Just acting weird," he said. She raised an eyebrow. "Weird like blue screen of death, or weird like you stared at cursed pictures until your monitor possessed you?" The joke was casual, offhand. He didn't laugh. She watched him for a moment, her expression shifting. "Okay," she said slowly. "Tell me." He told her in pieces, not everything. He didn't mention the dream. He didn't mention the whisper inside his skull. But he told her about the thread, the missing link, the images that weren't supposed to exist. When he finished, she sat in silence for a moment. Then she shrugged. "Let's see it," she said. "No. Come on. If it's some weird malware or some freaky AR thing, I want to see how it works." "There's nothing to see," he insisted. "It's gone." "Then what's the harm in turning your PC on?" she asked. "You can't let a JPG scare you out of using a computer forever. That's kind of pathetic." Her tone was teasing, but her eyes were kind. He wanted her to be right. He wanted this to be pathetic. He plugged the tower back in. The familiar whir of the fan was almost comforting now. He pressed the power button. Lights came on. The monitor woke. The desktop appeared like always. "See?" she said, stepping behind his chair, leaning on the back of it. "Totally fine. Now, where's your demon photo?" He swallowed. His mouse moved toward the screenshots folder. He clicked. Empty. He opened recents. Untitled JPG. Untitled 1 JPG. Maya leaned closer. "Those?" "Don't," he said automatically, surprising himself with the force in his voice. She paused. "I'm just going to open one," she said, softer now. "We're here together. If it tries to do something weird, we just shut it down, okay?" He didn't answer. She took his silence as a yes. The cursor slid over untitled.jpg. Double-click. For half a second, the same image appeared. The frozen shot of his room at 3:33. His back hunched. The glow of the monitor. The ghost of a smile. Maya frowned. "That's creepy," she said. "Did you set up your phone camera or something?" The image glitched. A horizontal line of distortion tore across the screen, splitting it in two, then pulling it back together. The room in the photograph darkened. The light from the monitor grew brighter. The reflection in the window sharpened. In the window's surface, they could see two figures now. Not just Liam sitting, but another one standing behind him. White, smiling. Maya's hand tightened on the back of the chair. "Okay," she whispered. "That's a cheap edit, right? Tell me that's a cheap edit." The monitor speakers crackled. No audio was playing. A faint static hiss filled the room, like distant radio noise. Liam's phone, lying on the desk, lit up on its own. His lock screen flashed, then changed. For just an instant, instead of his usual wallpaper, the screen showed that same white face, stretching to fill the display, smile curving unnaturally with the rounded glass. Maya grabbed his wrist. "Liam, turn it off." He reached for the power button. The cursor on the screen moved before his hand touched the mouse. It drifted, slow and smooth, to the top of the image window. Then, on its own, it clicked the maximize button. The photo expanded to fill the screen. The static hiss grew louder. The figure in the window reflection tilted its head. Not much, just enough. Maya's breath hitched. "This isn't funny," she said, voice suddenly tight. "Stop it." He realized, with a cold, sinking feeling, that his hands weren't on the mouse at all. The clicking didn't stop. The cursor dragged the image window to the side. Another window opened. Untitled 1 JPG. It was black, a deep, empty black that somehow felt thicker than the simple absence of light. And in the center of that black, a pair of eyes, too white, too wide. The pupils were pinpricks, focusing, adjusting, as if they had just opened to the light. Maya let out a noise, half laugh, half gasp. "Is this some ARG? Are you in on this? Because if you're in on this, I swear to God." The eyes blinked. Not a glitch, not a frame skip. A slow, deliberate blink. The speakers hissed, then cleared. A voice emerged, not a jump scare scream, not a distorted growl. A soft, almost conversational whisper, like someone leaning in close enough that you can feel their breath on your ear. "Why did you bring someone else?" Maya recoiled, hand flying to her mouth. Liam couldn't move. The voice was wrong. It didn't seem to come from the speakers or the room. It came from inside his head, pressing against his thoughts, slipping between them. "You looked too long," it murmured. "You opened the door, Liam. You let me see you. And now..." The eyes moved, slowly sliding to the side, fixing on Maya's reflection in the black of the screen. "You showed me another." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees in a heartbeat. Liam could see his breath fogging faintly in front of him. Maya whispered his name. "Turn it off, please." He tried. He really tried. His hand finally jerked toward the power button, but his fingers felt thick, numb, like they belonged to someone else. The room lights flickered. For a second, everything plunged into darkness. When they came back on, Maya was no longer behind his chair. He twisted around. She stood by the door, hand on the handle, face pale. Her eyes were open too wide, pupils huge, swallowing most of the color. Her lips were stretched into a smile, too wide, too forced. It looked painful. "Maya," he said, his own voice sounding distant to his ears. She didn't answer. She tilted her head, the exact same angle as the figure in the reflection had. The voice in his head spoke again, from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Go to sleep." And then, like a snapped thread, his vision cut out. No pain, no sound, just nothing. When he woke, he was lying on the floor. His head ached dully. His tongue tasted like metal and dust. The room was dark. The only light came from the monitor, which showed his desktop background. No windows open. His phone was dead. The air felt thick, heavy, as if the room had been left closed for weeks. He pushed himself up slowly, every muscle stiff, and checked the time on the corner of the screen. 3:33 a.m. His throat tightened. "Maya," he croaked. Silence. Her bag was gone. So was her jacket. There was no sign she'd ever been there at all. He checked his messages. No new notifications. No missed calls. When he tried to call her, the line went straight to voicemail. He didn't sleep that night either. The next day, she didn't show up to class. By evening, her social media accounts had gone quiet. No new posts. No seen ticks on any messages. Her last status was from the previous afternoon. He went to the campus security office, stammered something about not seeing her, about being worried. They nodded, took notes, told him someone would check in. They never called back. Days turned into a blur. He stopped going to class, stopped answering messages, stopped opening curtains. At night, he heard sounds, soft, muffled footsteps in the hallway outside his door, a faint scraping from behind the walls, like nails or teeth against plaster. Once, around 3 a.m., he heard laughter. Not loud, not hysterical. Just a low, breathy chuckle right next to his bed, on the side where no one was. He didn't look. He kept his eyes closed, breathing through his nose, heart hammering so hard he thought it would burst. Go to sleep. He couldn't. He couldn't sleep anymore without seeing that corridor full of screens, without walking past that endless repetition of the same smiling face, without feeling those eyes track him from frame to frame, waiting for him to stop, to turn, to put his hand on the glass. He tried everything. He wiped his hard drive. Factory reset. He got rid of the PC entirely, dragged it down to the dumpsters behind the building, and dropped it in, watching the metal casing crack on impact. For 2 nights, nothing happened. The 3rd night, he woke at 3:33 a.m. to find the glow of a screen in his room, his TV, which wasn't plugged in. The image showed his bed from above, him asleep, and in the doorway, just at the edge of the frame, something white, smiling. He smashed the TV with a chair. The shards of glass reflected him in fragments, cutting his face into pieces that didn't line up. He stopped buying screens. No PC, no TV, no tablet, no mirrors. He used an old brick phone that could barely send texts. Even then, he saw it. In the distorted reflection on the microwave door, in the dark shine of a turned-off window at night, in the pupil of a stranger's eye on the train. White, smiling, waiting. He found himself thinking back to that old thread, to the warnings that had sounded like jokes. Don't stare more than 13 seconds. The eyes don't like it when you count. It wasn't about the time, he realized. It was about attention, about focus. You didn't just see the image, you let it see you. You opened your mind to it and kept it there, fixed, unmoving, long enough for it to trace you, to learn your lines, to follow you back. He wondered how many people it had done this to, how many missing friends, unexplained absences, silent accounts. He wondered if that was why the original link was gone, not because a moderator had removed it, because it had already found enough. It didn't need to be downloaded anymore. It was in the copies, the reposts, the memes, the low-res thumbnails, compressed 1,000 times, losing detail, but never losing the shape of that smile. Always there, waiting for someone to stare a little too long, to zoom in, to sharpen, to enhance. He started leaving the apartment only in daylight. Even then, he walked with his head down, avoiding reflections in windows, in car doors, in puddles. He caught glimpses anyway. A hint of pale skin in the corner of a shop's security monitor, a pair of too bright eyes in the turned-off screen of someone's phone as they passed him. Once, in the glass of a bus shelter, he saw his own reflection standing next to him, smiling, too wide. He stopped going outside altogether after that. The walls of his small apartment closed in, turning into a box with no exits that didn't lead to something worse. He taped paper over the windows, turned all reflective surfaces to the wall. At night, with every possible light source removed, he sat in darkness, eyes open, waiting for the inevitable glow. It always came, sometimes faint, sometimes bright, on a wall, on the ceiling, on the inside of his eyelids when he tried to blink. White, smiling, waiting. One night, as the rain returned, tapping against the covered windows like someone gently drumming their fingers, he realized something. He wasn't the only one in danger anymore. He'd told Maya. He'd tried to show her the file. He'd talked about it with others, in half-formed comments and messages, back when it was still a curiosity and not a prison. He'd said the name. Jeff the killer. He'd said it out loud. He was saying it now. And he was being listened to. The story, he realized with a creeping dread, was a carrier. Every time he told it, every time he even thought it too clearly, he was spreading it, embedding the contours of that face in someone else's imagination, giving it more doors to choose from, more rooms to light up at 3:33 a.m., more screens to borrow, more reflections to bend. He thought about destroying everything he owned, thought about burning the apartment, letting the fire take the walls, the glass, the wires. But fire makes shadows. Shadows make shapes. And he was so tired, so very, very tired. He wondered what would happen if he finally obeyed that voice, if he finally did what it had been telling him to do since the first time he met its eyes. Go to sleep. Would it stop? Would the corridor of screens finally end? Or would he just wake up somewhere else along it. Another face in another frame on another wall, smiling out at the next person who stared too long. He lay down on his bed, staring up at the dark ceiling, feeling the weight of his own eyelids. He could sense it there, just beyond the thin film of his vision, waiting patiently, not rushing. It had all the time in the world. He thought about you, sitting there, listening, letting this story paint pictures in your mind. You've seen the image before, haven't you? Even if you don't remember exactly where, even if you're not sure it was real. White skin, black hair, wide, burning eyes. That smile. Now your brain is holding it, sharpening it, adding details. Maybe you're imagining it on a screen, or in a dark corner of your room, or reflected faintly in your own monitor right now, just behind your face, a little to the side. It doesn't always need the photo anymore. Sometimes the memory is enough. Sometimes the story is enough. Somewhere far away, in a small grey apartment, Liam's breath slows. His eyes, ringed with deep shadows, finally close. The room is completely dark. No PC, no TV, no phone light, no LEDs. Yet for just a moment, the outline of a face appears above him. Not fully formed, just suggestions. A curve of white here, a glint of teeth there, eyes, wide and gleaming, hovering where the shadows are thickest. Watching, smiling, waiting. You might feel the urge right now to turn around, to check the screen behind you, to look at the dark corners of your room, to make sure you're alone. You can, if you want. Just remember, it doesn't like it when you stare. It doesn't like it when you count. And it especially doesn't like it when you say its name, in the glow of a screen, in the middle of the night, while your tired eyes water and your heart beats a little too fast. Jeff the Killer. The internet's most cursed photo. You've thought about it now. You've seen it again, inside your own mind, the last place it ever needs to be. So, when you're done here, when you close this video, when the room gets a little quieter and the shadows grow a little longer, try to sleep quickly. Don't look too long at the blank screen as it goes dark. Don't watch for any shapes that shouldn't be there, and whatever you do, if you feel a gentle warmth on your face in the middle of the night, like the glow of a monitor that isn't on, if you hear a soft, breathy laugh inches from your ear when you know you're alone, if you see, in the glass of your window or the black of your TV, a smile that doesn't belong to you, don't turn on the light. You might not want to see how close it already is.